The space station was bigger than any city Jake Morrison had ever seen. It spun slowly in the darkness between two bright suns, its metal walls gleaming like silver. Through the thick windows of the human ship, Jake could see hundreds of other vessels docked around the massive structure. Ships of every shape and size filled the space around the station. Some looked like floating crystals, others like living creatures made of metal and light. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said Ambassador Lisa Carter as she joined Jake at the observation window. "The most important place in the galaxy today." Jake pressed his face closer to the glass. He had been in space for 3 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The station was so large that it had its own weather systems. Clouds drifted across its surface, and he could see lightning flickering in the distance. "How many species are here?" Jake asked. "Over 200, Lisa replied. "Every major civilization in the galaxy sent representatives. This is the biggest gathering in galactic history." Jake knew why they were all here. Princess Zarathil of the Vorthek Empire was looking for a husband. The Vorthek controlled more trade routes than any other species. They had the strongest military and the most advanced technology. Marriage to their princes would mean wealth and power beyond imagination. The human delegation was small compared to the others. Only 12 people, including Jake, Ambassador Carter, and Dr. Rachel Torres, the team's alien expert. Earth had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago. Most species still thought of humans as primitive newcomers who barely deserved to be here. Their ship docked with a soft thud. Jake gathered his belongings and followed the others through the airlock. The station's corridors were wide enough for the largest alien species. The walls were covered in symbols from dozens of different languages. The air smelled strange, like ozone and something sweet that Jake couldn't identify. Other delegations moved through the corridors around them. Jake stared as a group of tall, thin beings glided past. Their skin was transparent, and he could see light pulsing through their bodies. Behind them came a delegation of creatures that looked like walking trees, their bark-like skin rustling as they moved. "Try not to stare," Lisa whispered. "Some species consider it rude?" They reached their quarters, a small section of the station reserved for minor delegations. The rooms were basic but comfortable. Jake unpacked his few belongings and put on his best uniform. Tonight was the opening ceremony, where all the delegations would be presented to Princess Zarathil. The main hall was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that Jake couldn't see the top. Thousands of beings filled the space, arranged in groups according to their species. The air buzzed with conversation in hundreds of languages. Translation devices worn by each delegate turned the alien sounds into words Jake could understand. At the center of the hall was a raised platform made of black stone. It was empty now, but Jake knew that soon Princess Zarathil would appear there. He had seen pictures of her in the briefing files, but he wondered what she would look like in person. "The Vorthek are an insectoid species," Dr. Torres had explained. "During the journey, they evolved from creatures similar to Earth's mantises, but much larger and more intelligent. Princess Zarathil is considered quite attractive by their standards." Jake had looked at the pictures and tried to imagine finding the princess attractive. Her body was covered in hard, shiny plates like armor. She had 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Her mouth was surrounded by sharp mandibles that could probably cut through metal. To human eyes she looked terrifying, but Jake had read more than just the briefing files. He had spent hours studying Vorthek culture and history. He had learned about their art, their philosophy, their science. The more he learned, the more impressed he became. The Vorthek were not just powerful. They were sophisticated and intelligent. A deep sound echoed through the hall. It was like a bell, but lower and richer. Conversation stopped as all eyes turned to the platform. Lights dimmed, and a single spotlight illuminated the center of the stage. Princess Zarathil appeared as if from nowhere. Jake later learned that she had used a Vorthek teleportation device, but at the moment it looked like magic. 1 second the platform was empty. The next she was there. She was even more imposing in person than in the pictures. 7 feet tall, her exoskeleton gleamed under the lights. Her forearms moved with grace and precision as she acknowledged the crowd. Her compound eyes swept across the assembly, taking in every detail, but Jake noticed something the others might have missed. Despite her impressive presence, there was something sad in her posture. Her shoulders were slightly hunched, as if she carried a heavy burden. Her movements were graceful but tired. "Welcome, representatives of the galaxy," Princess Zarathil said. Her voice was translated into every language simultaneously, but Jake heard the musical quality of her original words underneath. "I am honored by your presence at this gathering. As you know, I seek a partner who will help lead our empire into a new age of prosperity and peace." The crowd murmured with excitement. Jake watched as delegation leaders straightened their postures and adjusted their finest clothes. Everyone wanted to make a good impression. "The courtship ceremony will begin tomorrow," the princess continued. "Each delegation will have the opportunity to present their case. I will listen to all with equal attention and respect." She paused, and Jake thought he saw her eyes linger on the smaller delegations near the back of the hall. The ones representing species that had little to offer in terms of military might or resources, the ones like humanity. "I seek not just an alliance between empires," she said, "but a partnership of minds and spirits. I hope to find someone who sees beyond the surface to the person beneath." The ceremony continued with formal presentations from each major delegation. The ethereal collective sang harmonies that made the air shimmer. The Chronari Empire displayed weapons that could destroy moons. The Shapeshifter Alliance demonstrated their ability to take any form. Each presentation was more impressive than the last. Jake felt small and insignificant among such displays of power and technology. What could humanity offer compared to species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years? As the evening progressed, Jake found himself watching Princess Zarathil more than the presentations. He noticed how she listened politely to each delegation, how she asked thoughtful questions, how she thanked each group with genuine courtesy. But he also noticed that her enthusiasm seemed to fade with each passing hour. The other delegates saw her as a prize to be won, a key to unlock the wealth and power of the Vorthic Empire. But Jake saw something different. He saw a lonely person, trapped by duty and expectation, surrounded by beings who wanted to use her for their own purposes. When the ceremony ended, the princess retired to her quarters. The delegates dispersed to their own sections of the station to plan their presentations. For the next day, Jake walked slowly back to the human quarters, his mind full of thoughts. "Impressive, wasn't she?" Lisa said as they entered their common room. "I've never seen a more powerful being. The other delegations are going to pull out all the stops tomorrow." Jake nodded but didn't reply. He was thinking about what the princess had said about seeing beyond the surface. He was thinking about the sadness in her posture and the loneliness in her eyes. He was thinking about how every other delegation seemed to see her as a thing to be acquired rather than a person to be known. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He lay in his narrow bunk and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, the greatest courtship ceremony in galactic history would begin. Powerful beings would compete for the hand of Princess Zarathil, with displays of wealth and might that would make human achievements look like children's toys. But Jake wondered if anyone would bother to ask the princess what she actually wanted. He wondered if anyone would try to see the person behind the power and the position. He wondered if anyone would treat her with the simple respect that every thinking being deserved. As the station's artificial night cycle deepened around him, Jake began to form a plan that would change the course of galactic history. The second day of the ceremony began with a magnificent display. The great hall had been transformed overnight. Floating platforms surrounded the central stage, each one decorated with symbols and colors representing different alien civilizations. The air hummed with excitement as hundreds of species gathered to watch the formal courtship presentations. Princess Zarathil took her place on the black stone platform. She wore ceremonial armor that sparkled like stars, but Jake noticed that her compound eyes looked tired. The weight of choosing a partner for political reasons rather than personal feelings was clearly affecting her. The first suitor was Prince Catherine of the Ethereal Collective. His translucent body glowed with inner light as he approached the platform. He began to sing in frequencies that made the air itself vibrate. Colors danced around him like living rainbows. The song told the story of his people's achievements across 10,000 years of civilization. "We offer you the wisdom of ages," Prince Catherine sang. "Our minds can touch yours across the vastness of space. Together we will create harmony between all thinking beings." Princess Zarathul listened with polite attention. When the song ended, she bowed slightly. "Your offer honors me, Prince Catherine. I will consider your words carefully." But Jake saw the subtle way her mandibles clicked together. Dr. Torres had taught him that this was a sign of politeness without genuine interest. The princess was already planning to refuse. Next came General Thokmar of the Kronari Empire. He stomped onto the platform wearing battle armor covered in the symbols of his victories. Behind him, holographic displays showed planets his armies had conquered and enemies they had defeated. "Princess Zarathul," he boomed, "the Kronari offer you strength that can crush any enemy. Our fleets can protect your empire from any threat. Our warriors fear nothing and never retreat. Join with us, and no force in the galaxy will dare challenge your power." The general's presentation continued for nearly an hour. He showed weapons that could destroy entire star systems and ships that could travel between galaxies. The display was impressive, but Jake noticed that Princess Zarathul's posture became more rigid with each passing minute. When General Thokmar finished, the princess gave the same polite bow. "Your strength is legendary, General. I am honored by your proposal." Again, Jake heard the click of her mandibles. Another refusal was coming. The presentations continued throughout the morning. The Shapeshifter Alliance demonstrated their ability to take any form the princess desired. The Hivemind Collective offered to share their unified consciousness with her. The crystal beings sang harmonies that could reshape matter at the molecular level. Each presentation was more spectacular than the last. Jake felt overwhelmed by the displays of power and technology. How could humanity compete with beings who could control time itself or reshape entire planets with their thoughts? But as the day wore on, Jake noticed something important. Every suitor focused on what they could give the princess or what they could gain from her empire. None of them seemed interested in Princess Zarathul as a person. They talked about her position, her power, her political value. But no one asked about her dreams, her fears, her hopes for the future. During the lunch break, Jake walked alone through the station's gardens. The artificial ecosystem contained plants from hundreds of worlds, creating a peaceful oasis in the busy station. He found a quiet spot near a fountain and sat down to think. "Captain Morrison?" A familiar voice said behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Torres approaching. "You look troubled," she said, sitting beside him on the bench. "I've been watching the presentations," Jake said. "They're incredible. The technology, the power, the resources these species can offer. But something feels wrong about the whole thing." Dr. Torres nodded. "Princess Zarathul is being treated like a commodity to be purchased rather than a person to be courted. It's quite sad, really." Jake looked at the alien plants around them. Some were beautiful in ways that human eyes could appreciate. Others were strange and frightening. But all of them served a purpose in the garden's ecosystem. All of them belonged. "What do you think she actually wants?" Jake asked. Dr. Torres considered the question. "From what I've observed, she seems intelligent and thoughtful. She's published scientific papers on quantum consciousness theory. She's written poetry that's been translated into dozens of languages. She's worked to reform laws that protect smaller species within the Vorthek Empire. I think she wants to be appreciated for her mind, not just her position." Jake stood up suddenly. "Dr. Torres, I need to ask you something. Would it be possible for me to make a presentation to the princes?" Dr. Torres looked surprised. "Technically, yes. The ceremony is open to all delegations. But Jake, we have nothing to offer compared to these other species. We don't have advanced technology or vast fleets or incredible powers. What could you possibly say that would interest her?" Jake smiled. Maybe that's exactly the point. When the afternoon session began, Jake was not in the audience. He was in his quarters, preparing for something that would either be the greatest success or the most spectacular failure in human diplomatic history. The presentations resumed with the techno-organic collective, beings who had merged their biology with advanced machines. They offered to share their technology with the Vorthic Empire, creating hybrid beings with incredible capabilities. Their demonstration involved reshaping their own bodies into fantastic forms that could survive in the vacuum of space. Princess Zarathil watched with the same polite interest she had shown all day. Jake, watching from the entrance to the hall, saw her shoulders sag slightly. She was growing tired of being treated as a prize to be won. The psionic collective was the last major delegation scheduled to present. They created a mental symphony that filled the minds of everyone in the hall with beautiful music and impossible colors. For a few moments, every being in the room shared the same thoughts and feelings. It was an incredible display of power and unity. When the mental music faded, Princess Zarathil thanked the psionic collective with the same polite words she had used all day. The ceremony master announced that the presentations were complete and that the princess would announce her decision the following day, but before Princess Zarathil could leave the platform, a voice called out from the back of the hall. "Your Highness, I request permission to speak." The hall fell silent. Everyone turned to see Jake Morrison walking down the center aisle toward the platform. He wore his simple human uniform, which looked plain and unremarkable compared to the elaborate costumes of the other delegations. Princess Zarathil's compound eyes focused on him with curiosity. "You are from the human delegation," she said. "I was not aware that your species intended to participate in the ceremony." Jake reached the platform and looked up at her. Despite her imposing height and alien appearance, he felt no fear. "Your Highness, I am Captain Jake Morrison. I represent humanity, and I have something to say that I believe you need to hear." Murmurs of confusion and outrage rippled through the crowd. Several delegation leaders stood up, clearly offended that such a minor species would dare to interrupt the ceremony. But Princess Zarathil raised one of her 4 hands, and silence fell immediately. "Speak," she said simply. Jake took a deep breath. "Your Highness, I have watched this ceremony for 2 days. I have seen incredible displays of power and technology. I have heard offers of wealth and military might that would make any empire strong. But I have seen something else as well." He paused, gathering his courage. "I have seen a remarkable being, treated as a prize to be won rather than a person to be known. I have seen someone who carries the weight of an empire's future while yearning for genuine connection and understanding." Princess Zarathil's mandibles clicked softly. But this time, Jake recognized the sound as surprise rather than polite disinterest. "Continue," she said, her voice carrying a note of genuine curiosity for the first time in 2 days. Jake smiled. "Your Highness, I have no vast fleets to offer. I command no star systems. I cannot reshape matter with my thoughts or sing songs that bend space and time. But I can offer you something that I believe you value more than any of these things." "And what is that?" Princess Zarathil asked. "The chance to be seen for who you truly are," Jake replied. "Not as a symbol of power or a key to political alliance, but as a person with thoughts and dreams and hopes for the future." The hall erupted in shocked whispers, but Jake continued speaking. "I have studied your scientific work on quantum consciousness. Your theories about the nature of awareness across different species are brilliant. I have read your poetry, translated from ancient Vorthok. Your words about finding beauty and diversity have inspired me. I have learned about your efforts to reform your empire's laws to protect smaller species. You are not just a princess. You are a philosopher, a scientist, a reformer, and a dreamer." Princess Zarathil stepped down from her platform. For the first time since the ceremony began, she moved with purpose rather than duty. She approached Jake, her towering form casting a shadow over him. "And what do you propose, Captain Morrison?" she asked. Jake looked up at her, meeting her alien gaze without flinching. "I propose partnership based on mutual respect. I proposed the chance to build something together that neither of our species could achieve alone. The great hall exploded with noise. Delegates from dozens of species shouted in languages that the translation devices could barely keep up with. Some beings jumped to their feet in anger. Others stood frozen in shock. The sound was so loud that the station's emergency systems activated. Thinking there was a crisis, Princess Zarathul raised all four of her arms, and gradually the noise died down. But Jake could see the fury in the eyes of many delegates. General Thokmar of the Kronari Empire looked ready to draw his weapon. Prince Kethron's ethereal form flickered with angry colors. "This is an outrage," General Thokmar roared. "The human species has no right to participate in this ceremony. They are barely past their primitive stage. They have been in space for less than a decade." "The ceremony is over," Princess Zarathul said firmly. "I have made my choice." But the protest continued. Ambassador Veltar of the Shapeshifter Alliance stepped forward. "Your Highness, surely you cannot be serious. These humans offer nothing. They have no technology we cannot steal. They have no resources we cannot take by force. This decision brings shame to the proud Vorthek Empire." Jake felt the weight of hundreds of hostile stares. He wanted to step back, to hide behind Ambassador Carter and the other humans. But he forced himself to stand straight and meet the angry gazes around him. "Princess," Zarathul's compound eyes flashed with something that looked like anger. "Ambassador Veltar, are you suggesting that I am too foolish to make my own decisions?" The shapeshifter's form rippled nervously. "Of course not, Your Highness. But perhaps you have been influenced by some human trickery. These primitive beings are known for their cunning." "The only trickery I see," Princess Zarathul replied coldly, "is the assumption that I can be bought with displays of military power and threats of conquest. Captain Morrison offered me respect and partnership. The rest of you offered me chains made of gold." Ambassador Carter pushed through the crowd to reach Jake's side. Her face was pale with worry. "Captain Morrison, I think we should return to our quarters immediately. This situation is becoming dangerous." Jake looked at Princess Zarathul. "Your Highness, perhaps Ambassador Carter is right. I don't want to cause problems for you or your empire." "You are not causing problems, Princess," Zarathul said. "You are revealing problems that already existed. I am tired of being treated as a prize instead of a person. I am tired of suitors who see only my empire's power and not my own thoughts and dreams." The crowd began to disperse, but Jake could hear angry conversations in a dozen languages. The other delegations were not going to accept this decision quietly. As the humans made their way back to their quarters, Jake noticed that they were followed by security guards from several different species. "Jake, what have you done?" Dr. Torres whispered as they walked through the corridors. "Do you understand the consequences of this?" "I did what felt right," Jake replied. "Princess Zarathul deserves to make her own choices." "But the political implications," Ambassador Carter said. "Every major power in the galaxy expected to have a chance at this alliance. Now they're all united against us. Earth could be destroyed." Over this, Jake stopped walking. "Ambassador, with respect, that's exactly the problem. Everyone sees Princess Zarathul as a way to gain power. No one cares what she wants or how she feels. If we're going to be part of the galactic community, we need to do better than that." They reached their quarters and found that the doors were sealed. A Vorthek guard stood outside, his armor gleaming in the corridor lights. "By order of Princess Zarathul," the guard said, "the human delegation is under protective custody. There have been threats made against your safety." Inside their sealed quarters, the humans gathered in the common room. The communication systems were flooded with messages from other delegations, most of them angry or threatening. Ambassador Carter tried to contact Earth, but the communication channels were jammed. "The Kronari delegation is demanding that we be expelled from the station," Dr. Torres reported as she monitored the alien communications. "The Ethereal Collective is claiming that we use some kind of mind control on the princess." The Shapeshifter Alliance is threatening to break off all diplomatic relations with Earth. Jake sat in a corner, feeling the weight of what he had done. He had followed his heart, but maybe he had doomed his entire species in the process. The other humans avoided looking at him, and he couldn't blame them. Meanwhile, in the royal quarters of the station, Princess Zarathul faced her own crisis. Her father, Emperor Vorthak the Eternal, appeared as a massive hologram in the center of her room. His forearms gestured angrily as he spoke. "Daughter, you will end this madness immediately," the Emperor commanded. "The human species is beneath our notice. They have no technology we need, no resources we lack, no military power that could aid our empire. This alliance brings shame to our family name." Princess Zarethel stood her ground. "Father, I have spent my entire life making decisions based on what benefits our empire. I have never been allowed to choose based on what I want or what I believe is right. Captain Morrison is the first being who has ever treated me as a person, rather than a political tool." "You are not a person," Emperor Vorthak roared. "You are a princess of the Vorthak Empire. Your duty is to your people, not to your personal desires. You will reject this human and choose a proper suitor from among the powerful species. And if I refuse?" Princess Zarathul asked. The Emperor's hologram flickered with rage. "Then you will find yourself stripped of your title and exiled from the Empire. Do not test me, daughter. I have built our civilization into the most powerful force in the galaxy. I will not allow one foolish decision to destroy everything we have achieved." After the hologram disappeared, Princess Zarathul stood alone in her quarters. She looked out the window at the stars and thought about her choices. She could obey her father, reject Jake, and spend the rest of her life married to someone who saw her as a prize. Or she could follow her heart and risk losing everything she had ever known. The next morning brought more bad news. Dr. Torres monitored the galactic communication networks and reported that 3 major species had recalled their ambassadors from Earth. The Chronari Empire had moved warships to the edge of human space. The Ethereal Collective was organizing a boycott of all human colonies. "It's getting worse," Ambassador Carter said. "The Galactic Trade Commission is considering sanctions against all human worlds. They're saying that we disrupted a sacred ceremony and insulted the honor of dozens of species." Jake felt sick. He had wanted to help Princess Zarathul, but instead he had endangered every human in the galaxy. "Maybe I should withdraw my proposal," he said quietly. "Maybe if I apologize and step back, they'll leave Earth alone." "It's too late for that," Dr. Torres said. "The damage is done. The other species see this as a challenge to the natural order. They won't be satisfied until humanity is punished." A soft chime indicated that someone was requesting entry to their quarters. The door opened to reveal Princess Zarathul, accompanied by 2 guards. She looked tired but determined. "Captain Morrison," she said, "I need to speak with you privately." Jake followed her to a smaller room where they could talk without being overheard. Princess Zarathul's compound eyes studied his face carefully. "I want you to understand what you have started," she said. "My father has threatened to exile me if I go through with this marriage. The other species are talking about war against your people. Are you prepared for these consequences?" Jake met her gaze steadily. "Your Highness, I won't lie to you. I'm scared. I never wanted to hurt anyone or start a war. But I also can't regret treating you with the respect you deserve." Princess Zarathul's mandibles curved in what Jake now recognized as a smile. "That is exactly what I hoped you would say. Captain Morrison, I have lived my entire life making decisions based on fear and political necessity. For once, I want to choose based on hope and possibility." She moved closer to him. "The other species fear what we represent. They fear the idea that power and strength are not the only things that matter. They fear that smaller, weaker species might demand to be treated as equals." "What do you want to do?" Jake asked. "I want to prove them wrong," Princess Zarathul said. "I want to show the galaxy that cooperation and respect can achieve more than conquest and domination. But I need to know that you and your species will stand with me when the challenges come." Jake thought about Earth, about the billions of humans. who had no idea that their fate was being decided in a space station far from home. He thought about the other species who saw humanity as a threat to their established order. He thought about the risks and the dangers and the possibility of failure. Then he looked at Princess Zarethel and saw the hope in her alien eyes. "We'll stand with you," he said. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." Princess Zarethel reached out with one of her 4 hands and gently touched Jake's face. "Then let us begin to change the galaxy, Captain Morrison. Let us show them that different does not mean inferior, and that the smallest voice can speak the greatest truth." As they stood together in the small room, neither of them knew that their decision would soon be tested in ways they could never have imagined. The galaxy was about to discover whether love and respect could truly overcome fear and prejudice, or whether the established order will. The attack came exactly 1 week after Princess Zarethel accepted Jake's proposal. The Scar hegemony, a warrior species known for their brutality, launched surprise raids on 3 Vorthic border worlds. They had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and the chaos caused by the human Vorthic engagement gave them the opportunity they needed. Jake was in the station's communication center when the emergency alerts began flooding in. Red lights flashed throughout the facility as urgent messages arrived from across the galaxy. Princess Zarethel rushed into the room, her 4 arms moving quickly as she read the incoming reports. "The mining world of Kepler 442 is under attack," she said, her voice tight with worry. "The Scar have landed ground forces and are taking control of the lithium extraction facilities. The colony world of New Vorthic 7 is also under siege." Ambassador Carter joined them, her face pale with concern. "Is this because of our engagement? Are they attacking because they think the alliance with humanity has weakened your empire?" "Princess." Zarethel's mandibles clicked with anger. "The Scar have wanted our mining worlds for decades. They believe that my choice to marry a human shows weakness, that our empire is divided and vulnerable." Jake studied the tactical displays showing the attacks. The Scar had chosen their targets well. The mining worlds were far from the main Vorthic fleet bases, and it would take days for reinforcements to arrive. By then, the Scar would have stripped the worlds of their valuable resources and retreated to their own territory. "Where is the nearest Vorthic fleet?" Jake asked. "Admiral Korthik's battle group is 6 days away," Princess Zarethel replied. "The Scar timed this perfectly. They know our response patterns." Dr. Torres appeared at Jake's shoulder, carrying a data pad filled with information about the attacking species. "The Scar are aggressive, but not particularly intelligent," she said. "They rely on overwhelming force and quick strikes. They're not good at adapting to unexpected tactics." Jake felt an idea forming in his mind. "Your Highness, what if we didn't respond the way they expect?" "What do you mean?" Princess Zarethel asked. "The Scar are expecting a conventional military response. Large fleets, direct confrontation, battle lines in space. But what if we used a different approach? What if we used human tactics?" Ambassador Carter looked skeptical. "Jake, we have exactly 3 small ships in this sector. The Scar have brought dozens of warships. We can't fight them head to head." "We don't fight them head to head," Jake said. "We fight them smart." Within 2 hours, Jake found himself in a communication link with Admiral Susan Hayes, the commander of Earth's small exploration fleet. Her weathered face appeared on the screen from the bridge of the USS Discovery, humanity's most advanced vessel. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Hayes said, "Ambassador Carter has explained the situation. I have to tell you, this sounds like a suicide mission. The Discovery and her escorts are exploration ships, not warships." "Admiral, I'm not asking you to fight the Scar fleet directly," Jake explained. "I'm asking you to help us get behind their lines. The Scar think in straight lines, but humans think in 3 dimensions." Jake outlined his plan. The human ships would use their advanced stealth technology, combined with Vorthic cloaking devices, to slip past the Scar blockade. Small teams of human marines, working with Vorthic special forces, would land on the occupied worlds and coordinate with local resistance fighters. "It's a guerrilla campaign," Jake explained. "We don't try to defeat their fleet. We make it impossible." for them to hold the worlds they've taken. Princess Zarathil listened to the plan with growing excitement. Your species thinks differently than ours, she said. We always meet force with greater force. But you see ways around obstacles instead of ways through them. Admiral Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Captain, if this goes wrong, it could mean war between Earth and the Scar hegemony. Are you sure about this? Jake looked at Princess Zarathil. Admiral, if we don't help now, there might not be an alliance to protect later. The other species are watching to see if humanity will stand by its commitments. All right, Admiral Hayes said finally. We'll do it. But we're going to need detailed intelligence about Scar tactics and Vorthak underground resistance networks. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Princess Zarathil used her authority to access classified Vorthak military files. Dr. Torres worked with Vorthak scientists to adapt human stealth technology to work with alien cloaking systems. Jake coordinated with Marine Colonel Brad Wilson, who would lead the ground operations. The plan they developed was complex but elegant. The human ships would approach the occupied worlds from unexpected angles, using asteroid fields and gas clouds for cover. Once in position, they would deploy small teams of Marines equipped with Vorthak translation devices and weapons. The key is to work with the local population, Colonel Wilson explained via communication link. The Scar are brutal occupiers. The Vorthak colonists will be eager to fight back if they have help. Princess Zarathil provided crucial intelligence about hidden tunnel systems on the mining worlds. These were built by the original colonists for protection against solar storms, she explained. The Scar don't know about them because they're not on any official records. Jake noticed something important in the tactical reports. The Scar are using the mining equipment to extract resources, he said. They're not bringing their own extraction systems. That gives us a weakness to exploit. Dr. Torres looked up from her technical displays. If we could overload the mining equipment, we could create seismic instabilities. The geological disruption would force them to evacuate the workers. And while they're dealing with the chaos, Jake added, our teams can strike at their command centers and communication systems. The operation began 48 hours later. The USS Discovery and 2 escort ships, all equipped with hybrid human Vorthak cloaking technology, slipped past the Scar patrol ships around Kepler 442. The enemy vessels never detected them. Colonel Wilson's Marines landed in the pre-dawn darkness, using Vorthak teleportation technology to avoid the Scar sensor networks. Within hours, they had made contact with Vorthak resistance fighters hiding in the tunnel systems. The locals are angry and ready to fight, Wilson reported. The Scar have been using forced labor and executing anyone who resists. These people want their world back? The first phase of the plan worked perfectly. Using improvised explosives made from mining chemicals, the combined human Vorthak teams sabotaged 3 major extraction facilities. The explosions triggered seismic shifts that made large areas of the planet unstable. The Scar response was exactly what Jake had predicted. They began evacuating their ground forces to safer areas, consolidating their positions instead of spreading out across the planet. This gave the resistance forces room to move and strike at communication centers. Princess Zarathil monitored the operation from the space station, coordinating with her father's military commanders. Emperor Vorthak had been skeptical of the human plan, but as reports of success came in, his attitude began to change. These humans fight like no species I have ever encountered, he told his daughter. They use the enemy's strength against them instead of meeting it with greater strength. On New Vorthak 7, a similar operation was underway. The human teams had linked up with Vorthak civilians who had been forced to work in the agricultural processing centers. Together, they sabotaged the food production systems that the Scar were using to feed their occupation forces. The beauty of this plan, Jake explained to Princess Zarathil, is that we're not trying to destroy the Scar forces. We're making it impossible for them to achieve their objectives. They came here to steal resources, but now they can't extract anything without risking more sabotage. The turning point came on the 4th day of the operation. The Scar commander, frustrated by the constant attacks and equipment failures, made a critical mistake. He concentrated all his forces around the main mining complex on Kepler 442, thinking he could protect it with overwhelming firepower. Colonel Wilson and the Vorthak resistance leaders saw the opportunity immediately. "They've given us exactly what we wanted," Wilson reported. "All their eggs in one basket." Using the tunnel systems, the combined forces planted a massive explosive charge beneath the main complex. The explosion that followed was visible from orbit, sending a shockwave across half the continent. The mining facility, along with the Scar Command Center, was completely destroyed. With their ground operations in chaos and their objectives impossible to achieve, the Scar fleet began withdrawing from Vorthak space. They had expected a quick raid and easy plunder, but instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't see or predict. When Admiral Korthagest's battle group finally arrived, they found the Scar already retreating. The human-led resistance had liberated both occupied worlds without a single major space battle. Emperor Vorthak contacted his daughter with a message that changed everything. "Princess Zarathil, I owe you and the humans an apology. I thought this alliance was weakness, but I see now that it brings a new kind of strength. These humans think in ways that make our empire more powerful, not weaker." Jake stood beside Princess Zarathil as they watched the victory celebrations on the screen. The Vorthak colonists were cheering in the streets, and human marines were being. 6 months after the victory against the Scar hegemony, the wedding day had finally arrived. The ceremony was being held on New Geneva, a beautiful world that had been terraformed jointly by human and Vorthak technology. The planet's surface was covered with gardens that mixed plants from Earth with crystalline formations from the Vorthak homeworld, creating something entirely new and wonderful. Jake stood in his quarters aboard the orbital wedding station, adjusting his uniform for the 100th time. The outfit was a perfect blend of human and Vorthak design. His basic dress uniform had been enhanced with ceremonial Vorthak armor pieces that gleamed like silver in the light. On his chest, he wore the symbol of unity, a new design that combined the Earth globe with the Vorthak star pattern. Dr. Torres knocked on his door and entered, carrying a small device. "Jake, this is a translation implant that will let you understand Princess Zarathil's native language during the ceremony. Some parts of the Vorthak wedding ritual can only be performed in the original tongue." Jake allowed her to place the small device behind his ear. Immediately, he could hear the musical quality of Vorthak speech from the alien crew members working. Nearby, "It's beautiful," he said. "I never realized how much emotion was lost in the standard translations." Ambassador Carter appeared in the doorway, her face beaming with pride. "Jake, are you ready for this?" The guest list includes representatives from over 300 species. This is the most important diplomatic event in galactic history. Through the window, Jake could see ships arriving from across the galaxy. The vessels that had once come to compete for Princess Zarathil's hand were now returning to celebrate her wedding. The sleek crystal ships of the ethereal collective sparkled like jewels against the stars. The massive battle cruisers of the Chronari Empire flew in perfect formation. Even the mysterious ships of the Hive Mind Collective had come to witness the ceremony. "It's hard to believe," Jake said. 6 months ago, most of these species wanted to destroy humanity for disrupting their plans. Now they're here to celebrate our marriage, Dr. Torres smiled. The victory against the Scar changed everything. You and Princess Zarathil prove that. Cooperation between different species can achieve more than any single empire could accomplish alone. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of change. The success of the joint human-Vorthak military operation had impressed species throughout the galaxy. Within weeks of the victory, requests for meetings and trade agreements began flooding in. Earth, which had been ignored as a primitive newcomer, suddenly found itself at the center of galactic attention. Jake had been promoted to Admiral and given the new title of Director of Interspecies Relations. His job was to help build bridges between humanity and other civilizations. Princess Zarathil had worked alongside him, using her scientific knowledge and diplomatic skills to create new forms of cooperation. Together, they had established the first joint research stations where scientists from multiple species worked side by side. The discoveries coming from these facilities were already revolutionizing galactic technology. Human creativity combined with Vorthak precision and alien perspectives was solving problems that had puzzled the galaxy for centuries. A soft chime indicated that it was time for the ceremony to begin. Jake took a deep breath and walked to the transportation pad that would take him to the planet's surface. Ambassador Carter and Dr. Torres accompanied him, both wearing their finest diplomatic uniforms. The wedding site was breathtaking and natural. Amphitheater had been carved into a hillside overlooking a lake that reflected the light of New Geneva's twin suns. Thousands of beings filled the curved seating areas, their various forms creating a living rainbow of galactic diversity. At the center of the amphitheater was a platform made of intertwined human oak and Vorthak crystal formations. The mixture of organic and mineral created patterns that seemed to flow and change as the light moved across them. It was a perfect symbol of the union about to take place. Jake walked down the aisle between the seated guests. He could see beings he had only read about in xenobiology textbooks. The gaseous forms of the cloud dancers drifted above the crowd. The rock-like granite people sat motionless but somehow conveyed warmth and approval. The tiny but brilliant sparkflies created moving patterns of light in the air. Emperor Vorthak the Eternal waited at the platform, his massive form impressive even among the diverse gathering. His attitude toward Jake had changed completely. Since the Scar victory, where once there had been suspicion and anger, now there was respect and genuine affection. Admiral Morrison, the Emperor said as Jake approached, today you join our family not as a stranger, but as a son. Your courage and wisdom have brought honor to both our species. Jake bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I am honored to be welcomed into your family. I promise to treat Princess Zarathel with the love and respect she deserves. Music began to play from speakers hidden throughout the amphitheater. The sound was unlike anything Jake had ever heard. It combined human orchestral instruments with Vorthak harmonic crystals and musical forms from dozens of other species. The result was a symphony that seemed to speak to every being present in their own musical language. Princess Zarathel appeared at the top of the amphitheater, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. She wore traditional Vorthak royal robes that had been modified with human design elements. The crystalline fabric caught the light and threw it back in patterns that reminded Jake of Earth's aurora borealis. Her forearms were adorned with jewelry that mixed precious metals from both worlds, but what struck Jake most was the joy in her compound eyes. For the first time since he had known her, Princess Zarathel looked completely happy. The weight of duty and political necessity that had always pressed down on her was gone. Replaced by genuine excitement for the future, she walked down the aisle accompanied by representatives from a dozen species. General Thokmar of the Kronari Empire, his armor polished to mirror brightness, served as one of her honor guards. Prince Kethrun of the Ethereal Collective created a shimmering light display around her as she moved. Even Ambassador Veltar of the Shapeshifter Alliance had taken a beautiful form to honor the occasion. When Princess Zarathel reached the platform, she took Jake's hands in two of her own. The other guests fell silent as the ceremony began. The wedding ritual combined elements from both human and Vorthak traditions. They exchanged vows in both languages, promising to stand together through whatever challenges the future might bring. They shared symbolic gifts, with Jake presenting a small tree from Earth and Princess Zarathel, offering a crystal formation that would grow and change over time. The most moving moment came when they performed the Vorthak ritual of joined consciousness. Using technology that Jake still didn't fully understand, they briefly shared thoughts and emotions directly. For a few seconds, Jake experienced the universe through Princess Zarathel's compound eyes and felt her deep love and hope for their future together. When the ceremony was complete, Emperor Vorthak made an announcement that surprised everyone. Today marks not just the union of two beings, but the birth of a new age in galactic civilization. I hereby proclaim the creation of the Galactic Cooperative Council, with Earth and the Vorthic Empire as founding members." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Species that had been enemies for centuries stood and applauded together. Jake realized that their wedding had become something much larger than a personal celebration. It was the beginning of a new way for the galaxy to work together. As the ceremony concluded, beings from hundreds of species came forward to offer congratulations and gifts. The Ethereal Collective presented a song crystal that would play music from their home dimension. The Chronari Empire offered protective technology that could shield entire planets. The Cloud Dancers gave them a weather control system that could create perfect conditions on any world. But the gift that touched Jake most came from a small delegation of recently discovered species. They were beings whose civilizations were as young as humanity's, who had been ignored by the major powers until now. "Admiral Morrison and Princess Zarethel," their spokesperson said, "you have shown the galaxy that being different is not a weakness, but a strength. You have given hope to all the small and overlooked species that we too can have a voice in galactic affairs." As the celebration continued into the night, Jake and Princess Zarethel found a quiet moment together on a balcony overlooking the lake. The two moons of New Geneva cast silver light across the water, and the sounds of music and laughter drifted up from the party below. "Do you ever regret it?" Princess Zarethel asked, now using her chosen human name of Sarah. "You could have lived a simple life, exploring unknown worlds and making first contact with new species. Instead, you're married to an alien princess and responsible for the future of galactic civilization." Jake took her hand and smiled. "Sarah, I discovered something important when I first saw you at that ceremony. The most alien thing in the galaxy can become the most familiar when you take the time to really see it. And the most exotic adventure is worthless if you don't have someone special to share it with." Sarah's mandibles curved in happiness. "And I learned that sometimes the smallest gesture can change the course of history. One human who saw